Good evening, happy live. I apologize, I left my selfie stick in the car, so I'm literally balancing my phone on plates. So hopefully it works out for me this evening. I hope you guys are all well and excited that we are now in red and no longer in gray. Oops. Hope you guys have had a great start to your week. I'm going to do my normal, which is real estate updates. So I do locally as well as like I'll talk about Toronto and Ontario as a whole, Canada, etc. I do it different every single week. I go over some happy news and I answer your guys' questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to write them in the chat, okay? So what else was I going to say? Oh yeah. In a week, it's been a year since COVID officially, pandemic was stated that it's happening. So I hope you guys have had a great year and, come to recognize some things that are important to you, as well as, little things that you might have used to gotten mad at in the past, and now you're appreciative of more things. So hopefully you guys have all had a great year in general and really realized some things and what's more important to you. So my first question comes from Lynn and Barry. Again, you guys are welcome to ask questions in here if you want. So Lynn and Barry says, I know you've touched multiple times I know you've touched on multiple aspects of if the market will crash or if there's any signs that it still will. Do you think this might happen? So to be honest, thank you, Lynn, for asking. There's the odd person that says that there's a chance that there might be a correction, but people aren't saying that there's going to be a crash. And even if they do say there's going to be some sort of a correction, it's just supposed to be short term. So no, I do not think there's going to be a crash. And also when there was a crash last time, which was 1990, the interest rates were over 13% and now they are just over 1%. So it's a big difference from back in 1990, and this has lots of similarities to 2017, and 2017 was crazy, and then Kathleen Wynne put in a bunch of different rules. Hi, Melanie, how are you? Put in a bunch of different rules, and then it didn't crash our market, but it did adjust it and stabilize it. But then the very next spring, it was back to higher amounts anyway. So it was only for a couple months, which is again what they think if something does happen this year, that might be what happens in the fourth quarter. So if you guys, I can see little bubbles, but if I don't recognize your bubble, feel free to say hello or something. But again, I'm just going to go over the real estate updates and so forth, answer your guys' questions if you don't say anything, okay? So again, I do happy news and stuff too. So before I do real estate updates, there was two girls and I worked at Bars Forever. Hi, Melanie. Did you ever waitress, Melanie? So I worked at Bars Forever, but there was these two girls. They both got a job in Connecticut and they both found out that they were adopted. And they had Dominican flags, different spots, but Dominican flags. They both had been adopted from Dominican. And they thought what are the chances that, we're sisters? And they got checked and they were not. But they were best friends. And then 7 years later, which was in 2020, the one daughter found her biological father. The other one had no interest whatsoever. But the one found her biological father. And he said that they had given up another child for adoption. So she went to the agency or whatever you call it, where she was adopted out. And turns out files were mixed up. And that girl that was her best friend for the past 7 years turned out to be her full biological sister. Same mom, same dad, craziness. Anyways, it's not necessarily a happy story, but I think it's a happy story because it's cute that they're best friends, but they're actually sisters. So that's that. The next question comes from Debbie in Hillsdale. So Debbie said, would you ever do a long-term rental again, or are you always going to do short-term rentals from here on in, and why? Thank you, Debbie, for asking. I am going to do long-term rentals again, for example, at the new office that I bought in February. And to be honest, the reason I'm doing that is just because my insurance company won't let me do Airbnb. But if it makes more sense, I will do long-term. I will always look at my options. So if it makes more sense to do it short-term, I'm obviously going to do short-term rental. But if I do my homework and it's not somewhere where there are a lot of people going to do short-term rentals, let's just say 8 hours from Toronto, people aren't doing short-term rentals that far away, then I'll obviously long-term if the rate of return makes sense for me to even buy it in the first place. So I'm not against long-term rentals. I just like to look at what happens with long-term and what happens with short-term and see what makes more sense for me. So I'm not completely against it. I am going to do it in these 2 properties, but if obviously I could rent it short term and it makes more sense, then I'm going to. But thank you for asking. Oh, you were a bad waitress. All right, we won't bring it up then. So the next thing is, so again, I do random happy news. I'm a very much like a squirrel all over the place. So I do my questions and some happy news and real estate updates. So there was a lady that was shopping at the grocery store with her 5-month-old little boy, and she lost her wallet. And there was a security guard that found it. And, you know, he went to school, he worked part-time, and he had a family. And I'm sure the last thing he wanted after his shift was to do anything. But this lady lost her wallet, and he had lost his wallet before in the past and knows it's such a pain and what have you. So he actually rode his bike an hour to her place. Shouldn't even know she had lost her wallet. Rode his bike an hour. The husband was like so impressed. He posted something on Facebook, and then somebody in the comments on Facebook said, you should start a GoFundMe to this guy to get a car. So this fellow had been biking to and from school, to and from his job to be a security guard for 5 years. And so they started a GoFundMe. And then after a visit to a dealership and $25,000 later and donated money from the community, they bought him a new car. So I thought that was cute. New car for the lovely man that drove her wallet home. Or not drove it, biked her wallet home. So the next question comes from Craig and Oro. Every house I see goes up, seems to go from coming soon to sold. Is there any homes not selling like crazy? I am trying to get in the market, but it seems impossible. Thank you, Craig, for asking. Yeah, majority do go up and down right away. So they go up, they list on like a Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, and then they sell by Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday. Usually they're holding offers. Sometimes they'll take preemptive, which is another word for bully offers, which means that people are saying, I don't want to wait till Tuesday, I don't want to wait till Monday, I want to offer ahead of time. So that is common. But then there's some people that are just sick of, you know, doing bidding wars. So they're saying instead of listing, for example, at $6.99 and hoping for $8 or $8.25 or $8.50, they're just going to list for $8.50. So in those cases, there's not bidding wars, so you could get in there. As well as some sellers don't want as many people through the door because obviously there's a lot of buyers right now. And let's just say they have somebody in their family that's immunocompromised or something like that. Then they might not hold offers and just have a higher price. So they don't get like 40, 50, 90 agents through. They might only get like 3 to 8 or 10 at the most. So you could go into those properties as well. Just make sure you have all your ducks in a row. Like if you still need to go to the bank and you still want a home inspection, etc., it's not going to fly, unfortunately. So if you, go to the bank, give them all your notice of assessments for the past 3 years, give them your letters from your employer, give them whatever you have to, they do a credit check, etc. Then you have that lined up so you don't have to have that as a condition. And if you still want to have condition of a home inspector, it's not going to fly as well. So if you really like a house, then take back a home inspector doing like little mini inspections. So instead of coming for 3 hours, they might come for an hour. So you like the house, then the next day you book the little mini inspection. They go through with you for an hour and then they can tell you, hey, this needs to be repaired or this needs to be repaired or like run far away from this house or what have you. And then that way you can offer on the home if you still want to, but you know that the roof needs to be done or you know that the fuse, panel will be $1,300 to change it to breaker panel, etc. So you're not like shocked with costs after, okay? So that is what I would do and suggest. But thank you for asking. Okay, one more thing before real estate is what kids think about the pandemic, which again in a week will be a year. So they did a survey recently of 1,000 kids and they were 11 to 17. And 83% of the kids said they watch the news with their parents, which I don't even watch the news. 71% said they were curious about the virus. 66% said they respected and were inspired by the doctors and the nurses. And 48% of teenagers said they were interested in doing something in the healthcare profession when they were older. And it's guessed that kids in that era, 11 to 17, are going to know like medical advisors just as much as they know like sports stars or famous people, etc., which is kind of crazy. 1 out of 5 kids under grade 8 said they want to be a doctor when they grow up. And 18% said they hope to help find a vaccine. And 16% said they want to be a nurse or a pharmacist when they grow up. and 68% of kids said they think science is a cool subject. Instead of back in the day when everybody picked gym as a cool subject. And 52% said they hope to make some sort of a change in the world and some sort of a difference when they're adults. So that's what the kids 11 to 17 are doing right now. Disregard my messy, unwashed hair. Okay, so a mortgage giveaway reminder before I do the real estate statistics. So every month we're giving $2,500 on the first of every month. So if you know of anybody in Simcoe County you want to nominate, just send a video or an email submission if you're more shy to info@crippshomes.com. Again, info@crippshomes.com of who you are and who they are and why you would like them to win. Okay, so now I'm getting into real estate. Okay, so lots of people ask, like, is there a housing bubble? Is it going to burst? Whatever. So people are saying there's not, economists and so forth, is not a housing bubble, but there will be an affordability problem. So people aren't going to be able to afford homes, okay? So the reason that they don't think the market's going to burst and the hot market is going to continue is because the amount of interest, not interest like interest rates, but the amount of people that want to get into the market or change in the market, the low interest rates, which means they can afford more, as well as people leaving the city still, and then people's actual average savings has gone up in the last year. So some people think like, oh, people have been out of work. However, the average person has more saved right now than they did last year. They're not going to, the movies as much or at all. They're not spending money at the malls. They're not going out for dinner. They're not going to amusement parks. They're not going to concerts. They're not traveling. They're not buying new outfits because nobody's really seeing them. And they're just in their, jogging pants majority of the time. So majority of people are seeing that, investing in stock market, etc. They would rather invest in real estate. So again, they're thinking there's going to be an affordability crisis, but not a burst of the real estate bubble. Okay. I want to see if I missed anything there. No, I did not. And so it's just thought, like with more vaccines, obviously, that's coming out, and then the 1.2 million people that are supposed to immigrate to Toronto, not Toronto necessarily, but Ontario and Canada, majority obviously going to Toronto and Vancouver, which then spread out. So the 1.2 million in the 3 years, 400,000 a year, and then just the contractors and builders not being able to keep up with that is what is still spurring it, along with everything else, okay? And obviously, Toronto affects our market, so as they're growing, we're growing. But in this COVID time, people tend to be going like half hour, 45 minutes, an hour, some even 90 minutes of the city, whether, north, east, or west, etc., which obviously falls into Simcoe County, which is where majority of you guys are. But still, Toronto affects us. So last month in February, Toronto, the number of homes sold was up 52.5%, which again, then, expands into the surrounding areas. And so their average sales price is now over $1 million, so $1,045,000 and change, which is up 14.5% from last year's February. And I said that part already. I was saying that, the pandemic started a year ago, which is crazy. But back then, like a lot of people, CMHC, etc., they thought the market would crash. They thought it would go down 40%. It weathered the storm. To be honest, it was only quiet for about 2 weeks. And then went to like normal, and then it went crazy, and that was last year, and then it went insanity this year. So it weathered the storm for sure, and now it's breaking records like literally every single week. We've been in the paper 3 times in the past 2 weeks, one for having 71 offers on a property, one for selling something for $777 that was listed for $399. Another one was the highest sale in Aurelia that was not on the waterfront. I forget what the other one was. Anyways, I don't remember. There was another one. So tons of records being broken all the time. I said about the extra interest rates. And then Toronto basically is still lacking on detached homes. So they have an excessive amount of condos for sale, but they're still lacking on detached homes. So because so many people are working from home in Toronto, they're like, well, there's no detached homes in Toronto. So why don't we move further, north, where it's $1,048,000 for the average there. And that's counting condos, right? So then they come up here, or they go to Oshawa, Pickering, Burlington, etc., and they're buying homes, for not necessarily half the price, but basically they're saving a lot of money. So they're doing that. Some people are saying that that people need to step in and cool the market. So like when Kathleen Wynne, when I said she did that in April of 2017, it literally was like a brick wall to the market. I remember, because my birthday's in April and I was like, oh, it's quiet on my birthday, because normally it's not quiet on my birthday for real estate. But it was literally because Kathleen Wynne's announcement, and it was like busy, 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 and then it was like crickets. So some people are saying, oh, you need to cool the market's going too crazy, but officials are saying they're just going to step back this time. They're not going to do anything because they think it's too fragile because of, COVID and vaccines, etc. They don't want to, artificially step in and stop it. They just want to let it run its course, which I agree, just because last time it was a crazy brick wall to the market. So normally, like Toronto and Vancouver always has, the highest rates every single year of like how much the homes are going up. But now it's the suburban life that's going up faster, and the vacation properties. So the rural, whether it's cottages or Airbnb, etc. Those are the ones that are now breaking records all the time. Okay. There's a lot of people that bought in the last 4 to 6 months, and they're selling for like 100 to 200,000 more. Do I think that, in 4 to 6 months, it's going to go up another 100 to 200,000? I don't think so, because that's like crazy. But do I think it's going to go down 200,000? No. So I just don't think it can keep going up that amount. Like, that's just ludicrous. Like, that would go up so fast. But a lot of people are selling that literally just bought in the fall, and they're making 100 to 200,000, which is crazy. So besides like people wanting other people to step in, they did it in New Zealand, and they're like targeting investors. So they're putting extra taxes on investors, or they're saying the investors have to put more down. So in New Zealand, the investors have to put 40% down, which is not here. So some people are saying that needs to be implemented. And then some people are saying, why are you, hurting the people that are trying to work harder and get ahead and what have you? So it's just up for debate, but so far nothing has happened like that. In February of 2020, there was 1,007 homes that sold in Simcoe County. And February of this past year, there was just over 1,300, so 1,304 sold. And last year, the average sales price in February was $523 and change. I don't say the change. And this year in February is $743. Hi, Scotty. How are you? So again, $523 February of last year, $743 February of this year. Craziness. And 1,007 homes sold, and now 1,304 homes sold. So more homes are selling, and for over 220,000 more. And when we look at detached homes, last year there was 750 homes that sold, and this February there was 1,014, so more homes sold. And last year in Simcoe, because before I was saying the numbers I was saying were this year in total, so January and February, but just February. Last year in Simcoe, the sales price was $569 and change, and this year is $805 and change. So again, crazy. The semi-detached homes, so it means there's 2 homes, so it's not fully detached, but it's not a townhouse with like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They averaged $455 last year, and this year they're averaging $611 in February. And the townhomes last year in February averaging $414, and now they're averaging $583. And condos last year were averaging $392, and now they're averaging $469. So crazy, right? Like things jumping from $523 to $743 and $569 to $805. Things are just going mayhem, mental, crazy. And a lot of people are taking advantage of it and getting out. They put 5% down on their home originally, and now suddenly they have like 200, 300,000 extra equity. So they might only use 100 of it down on another property, or 200 or what have you, or they pay off some debt, or I don't know really what they're doing fully, but they're just taking advantage of it, getting the high rate and then going elsewhere, maybe to a property more suitable for their family in COVID, a bigger yard, maybe that staycation that's important to them. Maybe they're buying a house and a cottage and renting it out, and then like blocking a couple weeks a year for them to go on. It's totally up to them, but a lot of people taking advantage, obviously, because records are being broken every single week. So next question comes from Dominic and Barry. So Dominic said, my girlfriend and I are arguing about getting a pool. She says it doesn't add value and is just a fad right now, but I think it'll always add value. What should we do? Thank you, Dominic, for asking, even though I don't like to be in the middle of people's debates. However, so yeah, back before COVID, I would say like sometimes it added value, and sometimes people would say, oh, it's worth 30,000. I give them 30,000. Sometimes it's a really nice landscape yard or what have you, and they give us 60 or 100 depending on how fancy it is. But not everybody. Some people are like, how much is it to fill in the pool? And they don't care. Okay. So before COVID, yeah, it definitely was kind of hit or miss. And then since COVID, it's definitely more sought after. Like the amount of people that look for pools is huge. The amount of people that Googled pools the 1 week I was doing like my live or whatever was up over 600%, which was crazy. But I did hear, I don't know if it's true, but supposedly pools are like booked so far in advance, 3 years in advance. Again, I've never inquired. That's just what I heard. And supposedly I have to put like 60,000 down or something to hold it for 3 years. Again, I haven't looked into it, but they're definitely more popular right now, for buying in COVID and so forth. But if you're not planning on leaving for 12 or 15 years, I'm not sure what's going to happen then. But obviously you have a nice summer spot in the meantime. So I can't really answer that, but normally it's kind of hit or miss, not necessarily value, but definitely value, during COVID. So thank you, Dominic, for, asking. There is a coffee shop at a train station, which sounds pretty like, so what? But this fellow that owns it, he started 7 years ago, so long before COVID. His name's Peter, Thomas, and it's called Coffee with a Purpose. So basically he rents these trailers, like kind of like transport trucks or whatever, and people donate coats and scarves and mitts and so forth for the winter. And he kind of like has it like a little store for the homeless, so they can come in and they can kind of shop. There's blankets. He gives them coffee, of course, because that's what he does for a living, as well as like scones and donuts, etc. So I just like that because he's just thinking outside the box and not just doing his daily business of coffee. He's just seeing how he can give back. So I like that. So props to Peter. Next question comes from Cassidy in Aurelia. So Cassidy said, I know you do a lot of charities and giveaways, and I volunteered a nonprofit and was wondering if you'd be open to any other organizations. Thank you, Cassidy. Yeah, you can send it to me if you want at Kristin. Kristin is with an IN at crippshomes.com, and I can check it out and see if it's something that we would be interested in giving to. But thank you for reaching out, and if you could tell me as much about it as you can as possible, unless it's like one that I probably would know, or that's kind of self-explanatory in the title. But if it's not, and it's like Smith House, and I don't know what that is, if you could just give me some info, that would be great. So thank you, Cassidy, for asking. Reminder of the mortgage giveaway again, on the 1st of every month. We give $2,500 to somebody. We just knock on their door, and all they have to do is live in Simcoe County, and you can nominate anybody. You could live 10 hours away, but as long as the person lives in Simcoe County and they're over the age of 18, just tell us who you are and who they are, and send either a video or a written submission to info@crippshomes.com. Again, info@crippshomes.com, and we will knock on somebody's door on the 1st of the month live on this Facebook. Okay. Okay. So there was a webcam in New York City that's, not New York City, New York State, that saved a bunch of animals. So basically, kind of like Big Curve Acres that's in Oro. It's like a place, a farm with a whole bunch of animals. So there's this farm in New York State, and there was a bunch of pregnant animals. So they decided, with COVID and what have you, because they can't have like people visiting the farm, that they would put these cameras so people could watch live if, the animals, the pigs and the horses, etc., are giving birth. And so somebody signed on to see if, any of the animals were giving birth, and there was a fire. So one of the potbelly pigs had like knocked over a heat lamp or something, and it caught on fire, or caught the hay on fire. Anyways, she was an hour and a half away, but she called 911, and they were able to get a fire truck there and saved all the animals. So I like that. So webcams saved the animals, and, COVID essentially, because otherwise they didn't normally have cameras there, and the farmers weren't home. So if there was not COVID and no cameras, then the barn would have burned down. So the cameras saved the animals. The next question comes from Matt and Daniela in Innisfil. So Matt and Daniela, there's obviously tons of realtors locally. We've been referred to you, but haven't reached out to you. Is there anything you can tell us before we call you? Sure. That's cute. Thank you, guys. So to be honest, we do like 92 to 93% a year repeat and referral business. So we're not like just about like numbers and transactions or whatever. We're just about not we're just about, but we like the whole family aspect and bring them in. And obviously it's people's biggest investment of their entire life. So we don't want them to feel like we're just rushing them through the process. We obviously want them to be comfortable. It's again a massive thing. It's not like buying a pair of pants that you can return at Urban Planet or what have you. So we like to help people the entire way. And we also don't like to cash people's checks and run away and they never hear from us again. So we do a lot of events every year. Even in COVID, we find out different ways to do events that's safe for everybody. We did one last year at the drive-in, and then we did like this photo shoot, and people come with their family by themselves with a photographer inside, and then we gave them wine and chocolate outside. We just stayed outside with masks and some hot chocolate and some cider. But I would be happy to talk to you more so as opposed to on here. But thank you for reaching out. Okay, so, oh yeah, people, you know how like on garbage day, there's often people like going through your recycling bins or what have you. So there was somebody like that, but in India, and he was going in the river. He's gone up and down this river for years. He's 69, and he's paralyzed from the waist down from polio he got when he was 5. So basically, he like drags himself to the river. He gets in this boat, and he paddles around. He picks up bottles from the river, and then he takes it to get money, just like they do here. So there was a young man that was going around with a rented camera, and he, took some pictures of the guy. He posted on Facebook, and it basically spread a lot of this guy, trying to get extra money, but also helping with the environment. And the Prime Minister from India noticed and, shared it to some people, and it went on obviously virally. And then the guy ended up getting a new home. He got a motorized wheelchair, and he got a motorboat. So it was just cute what one person's, drive for working and wanting to have a better environment, and one person's love for photography helped this man out. So I really like that. Hi, Dwayne. How are you? Anyways, I think, let me look. That was it for me. So I hope you guys all go after your dreams, stay true to yourself, and be the best versions of yourselves possible, and encourage those around you to go after their, biggest goals as well. Stay safe, and until next time.